The next time you take your kids for a swim at North Fort Myers Community Pool, you're bound to see at least a few kids playing with water rings, right? This obviously bears a pretty close resemblance to the structure of a hurricane eye wall, where you'd find the most intense winds. When you listen for tropical weather updates on NBC2 and you hear the phrase maximum sustained winds, that's referring to what the winds are doing in close circulation around the center of the eye wall. Now, something important to remember with a hurricane eye wall is that it is not short. Yes, we only feel the impacts of the winds that are just above the Earth's surface, but a hurricane's eye wall actually extends upwards of 40, even 50,000 feet in the air. This means that it becomes vulnerable to something called wind shear. That's when the eye wall of a hurricane encounters stronger winds in the upper parts of Earth's atmosphere. Take, for instance, this kind of environment. This hurricane's able to organize vertically because there isn't much wind shear around it. But if it found itself in an environment with stronger winds in the upper parts of Earth's atmosphere, well, in this situation, the whole hurricane eye wall is tilted over. A hurricane has a lot of trouble staying organized or getting stronger if the eye wall looks like this. So during hurricane season, I need you to listen for two things. Number one, what does the wind shear situation look like right this moment? If a hurricane is in this kind of environment without much wind shear, it's probably going to get a lot stronger. But if it's moving toward an area of the atmosphere where stronger wind shear is present, that bodes well for us. It means the system might encounter some weakening. On the other hand, if a system looks like this right now with lots of wind shear, but is moving toward a part of the ocean where there isn't much wind shear, that means in theory, it could get a lot stronger as it continues on its journey. Reporting local out front of North Fort Myers Community Pool in North Fort Myers, First Alert meteorologist Rob Duns, NBC2.
So a few years ago, we had a hurricane called Hurricane Elsa. And because of that Frozen movie, your kids and your grandkids probably sing the soundtrack to it quite a bit. It gave me the idea of using a snowman to kind of put this into perspective as well. So if we were to use this close-up shot here, I know we don't deal with snowmen very often in South Florida, but a snowman can really only stand up if it's vertical like this, right? If your kids or grandkids start pushing at the top of the snowman, the whole thing's going to tilt over. Same thing applies with wind shear. If a hurricane finds itself in an environment like this where it can stay organized vertically, it can stay vertically stacked for a long period of time. But if a hurricane encounters an environment with stronger upper level winds, well, just like when your kids or grandkids push at the top of a snowman, the whole thing's going to fall over and can greatly weaken a tropical storm or a hurricane as it moves across the ocean.
Very interesting.
Could you take care of my snowman for a little bit? All right, thank you. I'm going to head over to the weather wall here. We're going to talk about some weather this afternoon. We had some showers and thunderstorms. Welcomed showers and thunderstorms across portions of Lee County earlier today. But unfortunately, all that we have right now near Lee County is offshore. And even though it's near the coast of Lee County, it's not exactly barreling right toward us. These have become basically stationary over top of the water. So though it is possible they could move a few miles toward the east and impact some of the barrier islands, it looks like we'll be in a bit of a lull in the action with rain, at least over Lee County for the next hour to hour and a half. Across Collier County, we do have some showers here popping up across areas like Golden Gate and Golden Gate Estates between Golden Gate Boulevard and 16th Avenue Southwest. These are mostly moving toward the east, but the winds are pretty light today. So though it is moving toward Golden Gate Estates, it just isn't moving very fast. Thunder and lightning counters not very high here. And even though we're not seeing any lightning with that shower off of the North Naples area, it's been basically stationary. So if we're lucky, it'll move a few miles toward the east and bring some rain toward North Naples. But right now, it doesn't look too promising. Across DeSoto, Charlotte County, really not much happening here at the moment, and the winds are pretty light out of the east. So yes, these isolated showers over the Gulf will slowly move in our direction, but big picture today, because of the eastern wind, the push of the winds here, the majority of the showers and thunderstorms that organize over the course of the next 4 or 5 hours should favor areas along and to the east of Interstate 75. So it's areas like eastern Collier County, Hendry County, and Glades County where the best rain chances will be for the rest of the day today, with isolated opportunities for downpours and thunderstorms if you live to the west of Interstate 75, which of course, by the way, is the driest part of our entire community. Western Charlotte County is still considered to be in extreme drought. Western Lee County considered to be in severe drought. If you just look at the city of Fort Myers, going back to the first of the year, we have had little more than 23 inches of rain. Though that is a lot of water, typically by this point in the rainy season, we've already had more than 33 inches. So we're now now running a rain deficit in the city of Fort Myers since the first of the year of more than 10.5 inches. And even though the opportunity for some showers and thunderstorms, of course, is around each of the next several days, no one particular day looks super rainy. So this deficit and drought that we have look to stick around for the foreseeable future all the way through the 7-day forecast. For tomorrow, as you would expect, going to heat up pretty quickly around the area. In the morning tomorrow, again, like today, west of the interstate, there will be the opportunity of a morning shower or thunderstorm. But after lunchtime on Wednesday, it's again mostly areas east of Interstate 75 where the widest concentration of showers and downpours and thunderstorms should pop up during the second half of the day. Hey, an important reminder for you. Lots of the little ones are headed back to school tomorrow, so make sure you're watching for kids walking and biking to school. There's a number of communities in our area that don't have sidewalks, so the kids kind of have to walk along the side of the road, and many of them do that before the sun comes up. So please make sure you're being extra vigilant tomorrow, as it's the first day back for a lot of them. They're thinking about school, they're not thinking about the traffic, so do your part. Make sure everyone gets to where they need to go tomorrow safely. 7-day forecast keeps it hot. 96 today, 95 tomorrow, 96 on Friday. My goodness.
When a hurricane forms, there's really no guarantees that it will survive the trip from one side of the ocean to the other. There are many factors that can prevent a hurricane from forming or weaken a hurricane as it moves over the ocean or rip apart a hurricane before it has time to make landfall. You can think of these factors as our hurricane defense. But the best way to explain them would be to step onto the field here at Paradise Coast Sports Complex in Naples. You see, in football, it's the job of the defense to prevent the ball from going from one side of the field to the other. If you think of the football as being a hurricane and the football field as being the ocean, here are the biggest factors or the biggest players on our hurricane defense. Our star player when it comes to hurricane defense is something called wind shear. By far, this tackles down more hurricanes than any other thing on our defensive line. Wind shear is when you have an increase with wind speed or direction with height, and hurricanes absolutely hate it. In this situation, we have stronger upper level winds pushing at the top part of the hurricane, tilting it over. This can weaken a hurricane substantially. By the way, wind shear is a reason why Hurricane Irma in 2017 made landfall as a Category 3 instead of a Category 4. And last year with Ian, wind shear is the reason why the storm made a landfall as a Category 4 instead of a Category 5. Another important player on our hurricane defense is dry air. Dry air is a stealthy member of our hurricane defense because it gets wrapped up inside a hurricane and weakens it from inside out. A big source of dry air in the Atlantic Ocean is something called the Saharan air layer. When big dry pushes of stable air move off the coast of Africa, it can prevent a hurricane from forming or can weaken a hurricane substantially as all this dry air gets wrapped up inside it, choking off the fuel it needs to continue firing off thunderstorms. Another big player on our hurricane defense is something you might not think of because we don't have anything close to them here in Florida. Mountains. They by far make up the biggest physical defense we have against hurricanes. You see, when mountains stretch upward, they can physically interrupt a lot of the low-level circulation within a hurricane. The mountains of Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Puerto Rico are some of the best defenders we have in the Caribbean Sea. There's mountains in Dominican Republic, like Pico Duarte, that extend up around 10,000 feet in the air. That can greatly disrupt the circulation within a storm and is one reason why that part of the Caribbean is sometimes called the hurricane graveyard. Now, there are other players on our hurricane defense that can help to weaken a storm as it moves across the ocean. Things like cooler water temperatures or land interaction, even something called an eye wall replacement cycle that can at least temporarily weaken a hurricane from within. Either way, there's lots of factors for you to keep an ear to this hurricane season as we hope for a strong hurricane defense. Reporting local on the football field here at Paradise Coast Sports Complex in Naples, I'm First Alert meteorologist Rob Duns, NBC2.
As you take a look at the 7-day forecast here, by Father's Day Sunday, at least the opportunity for some isolated storms, though, does return to the forecast. Now, I've got to get ready for my next segment coming up here. So while I do that, I just want to talk about the 7-day here. Going forward, the next 2 days, it's low coverage of rain in our area that highlights the forecast. By the weekend, we introduce the opportunity for some showers and storms. But in the meantime, it is the issue of the heat index and the heat outside that is the biggest story in our community. And that takes us to today's What's on Rob's Radar. Now, you have heard an awful lot about the heat index over the past couple of days, but remember, the heat index only applies to human skin. It's a calculated value that takes into account the air temperature and how much humidity is around, and it gives us an idea as to, on human skin, what the air feels like outside. But something important to remember is that objects outside can actually heat up way more than what the heat index is, and that should actually tie in with what you wear to work tomorrow. Out here, I've got a white t-shirt and a black t-shirt. White colors and light colors reflect a lot of the sun's energy, while darker colors absorb a lot of the sun's energy, becoming a lot hotter. I've got an infrared thermometer here to show this to you firsthand. The temperature right now of this white t-shirt that's been outside for about an hour is 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But if we go next door to my black t-shirt, look at that. It's been outside in the same amount of sunshine, but it's closer to 127 degrees Fahrenheit. That means this dark t-shirt is closer to the surface of the pavement as compared to the lighter color shirt. So because of how much energy the colors absorb, that plays a big difference in how much hotter something outside can be. That's something important to keep in mind when you get dressed for work tomorrow. Back to you. Based on the radar returns, where it is right now, how fast it's moving, we're looking for downtown Bonita Springs by 2:10, Bonita Bay by 2:13, Bonita Lakes by 2:14, and the Spring Creek Village by 2:16. So that's the part of the cell that we're most concerned about right now, with the leading tornado warning here that's issued for North Naples that goes until 2:15 this afternoon. Again, the area I'm most concerned about for some potential rotation when it relates to a funnel cloud or a tornado would be in this general area right here, like I mentioned before, near that split between Old 41 and US 41. The newer radar scans show the potential rotation here greatest right where the old dog track used to be. There's a racetrack gas station there now. It's close to where that, I think it's called the Brass Tap restaurant. This is where right now, based on the radar returns, we're seeing the most amount of rotation. So if you live in this area, you need to make sure you are in the most interior portion of your home and staying away from windows, away from doors, and just ride this one out. The storms are moving, like I said, remarkably fast. Forward speed is 40 miles an hour with some of these, so they're not going to stick around for very long. But because of the signatures that we're seeing on live radar, it is possible that they could produce an isolated tornado here, given the way the atmosphere is set up out ahead of Hurricane Idalia.